Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let's not waste time because what I'm about to tell you may shake what you think you know about women and attraction. You've probably missed it before. Maybe she looked at you a certain way. Maybe she said something that sounded innocent, but beneath her words there was a meaning she was hoping you'd catch. Most men don't. They freeze, overthink, or completely misread the signal, and the moment is gone. So, before we dive deep, make sure you hit that subscribe button, tap like, and turn on notifications, because what I reveal in my videos comes straight from real female psychology, not fantasy. Now, listen closely. Women rarely say, "I want to sleep with you." That directness doesn't match how attraction works in the female mind. What she does instead is use emotionally charged, socially acceptable cues that let her test your awareness, confidence, and timing without ever risking her reputation or sense of safety. When she's truly attracted, her language shifts subtly. It's not about what she says, it's about how she says it and what's hidden between the lines. You might hear her say something like, "You're trouble," or "I shouldn't be telling you this," or even, "You make me nervous." Those words sound playful, but they carry a quiet invitation. She's revealing that her guard is lowering, that she's feeling tension she can't fully explain. A woman's attraction isn't verbal, it's felt. And the more she feels safe, seen, and emotionally understood by you, the more she'll communicate her desire through tone, timing, and vulnerability, rather than explicit words. But here's the painful truth. Most men ruin that moment. They rush it, misread it, or try to close the deal too quickly, turning what could have been chemistry into discomfort. Women sense when your attention turns purely physical. It changes everything. That's why emotional awareness is the most underrated skill in attraction. Because when she says something loaded with subtext, like, "You always smell so good," or "You're bad for me," she's not confessing, she's testing. She wants to feel that you get it without making her say it. Once you understand these hidden signals, you stop chasing and start noticing. You see the truth beneath her words, and that's when the dynamic shifts completely in your favor. Here's the part most men will never see, because it's invisible if you're not paying attention. When a woman wants to sleep with you, she's already performing a quiet, calculated dance. And it's almost always emotional before it's physical. She's not just looking at your body. She's scanning your confidence, your attention, the way you respond to subtle provocations. If you panic, overthink, or try to decode her too aggressively, you'll destroy the tension that she's carefully building. Listen closely. She might lean closer when she talks, brush against your arm in ways that seem casual, or even laugh a little too loudly at your jokes. Most men dismiss these gestures as coincidence or friendliness, but they're not. Every slight touch, every intentional glance, every playful tease is a test. She's watching to see if you recognize her interest and, more importantly, if you can handle it without overreacting. The moment you acknowledge her signal correctly, her mind begins to relax. Her attraction grows stronger. There's a subtle phrase that almost always comes up when she's feeling that pull. Something like, "I don't know why I'm telling you this," or "You're going to get me in trouble." Pay attention because these aren't complaints, they're invitations. She's showing vulnerability, and women only do that when they feel a spark of trust or desire. If you respond with humor, light teasing, or confident acknowledgement, she feels seen, understood, and safe. That's when she's ready to escalate emotionally, and eventually, physically. But notice what she doesn't do. She rarely outright asks for sex. She doesn't text, come over, or say, "Let's sleep together." That would feel too transactional, too exposed. Women communicate desire in ways that allow them to remain in control while signaling you to make the move. It's a dance of subtle tension, emotional honesty, and flirtation. Misread it, and you appear desperate. Ignore it, and the opportunity disappears. Here's the invisible rule every man needs to grasp. Her words are hints, not commands. Her body language is her truth, and her attraction is a test of your emotional intelligence. If you can feel the undercurrent of desire without needing her to spell it out, you move from being a man she notices to a man she wants. Once you start reading these signs correctly, you'll notice them everywhere. Even casual conversations, shared jokes, and simple glances carry weight. It's no longer about pushing or chasing. It's about presence, understanding, and timing. Now, this is where most men completely fail, and it's heartbreaking because the signs have been right in front of them all along. A woman's desire is often cloaked in contradiction. She may act distant one moment and intensely attentive the next. She might tease you, challenge you, even seem uninterested, and yet underneath it all, she's testing your ability to stay calm, patient, and confident. Most men interpret this as mixed signals. They panic, overanalyze, or retreat, and that's when the moment is lost forever. Here's what you must understand. Her mixed signals are never random. They're emotional breadcrumbs. She's gauging whether you can handle tension, whether you can remain in control, and whether your confidence is genuine. When she says something like, "I probably shouldn't be telling you this," or "You're bad for me," she's not confused. She's communicating desire in a way that protects her ego and her vulnerability. Only a man who understands female psychology can recognize this. Notice her words versus her actions. Words are often protective. Actions reveal truth. If she's finding reasons to touch you, whether it's brushing your arm, leaning in close, or letting her leg press against yours, she's giving permission silently and intentionally. If she maintains eye contact longer than usual, her pupils dilate, or she laughs at things that aren't particularly funny, these are classic signs that attraction has moved from curiosity to intent. These are not random behaviors. They are the signals of a woman preparing to act on her desire. Another critical point, the emotional connection comes before the physical. If you jump too quickly into the sexual territory, you risk shattering the tension she's carefully building. She wants to feel that you're attuned to her mind, that you can navigate her emotions without panic. The stronger your awareness, the more she trusts and desires you. This is why some men who think they're missing signs are actually ignoring the most obvious ones. They're focused on words rather than the unspoken language of attraction. The men who succeed are those who remain present, confident, and observant. They allow the tension to build naturally. They respond with subtle acknowledgement, playful teasing, and unwavering composure. They read the emotional cues without trying to force a reaction. And when the timing is right, the physical intimacy follows as an inevitable outcome of connection, trust, and mutual desire. Understanding this dynamic gives you a huge advantage. You stop chasing, you stop guessing, and you step into a role of power she can't ignore. Here's a truth that most men will never hear, and it's brutal because it strips away every romanticized idea about attraction. A woman's desire is rarely impulsive. It's strategic, subconscious, and emotionally calculated. She wants to feel safe, intrigued, and mentally engaged before she allows herself to act. This means that even when she's clearly attracted, she's constantly testing boundaries, your confidence, your patience, and your ability to read her signals without overreacting. Most men fail this test without ever realizing it. Pay attention to how she frames her words. When she says, "I don't usually do this," or "You're kind of dangerous," she's signaling attraction, not danger. These are verbal gateways. They allow her to communicate desire while maintaining control and protecting her sense of self. The man who can recognize this knows exactly when to maintain composure, when to tease lightly, and when to let the tension grow naturally. The wrong response, panic, overeagerness, or pushing too far, kills the attraction instantly. Physical cues matter just as much as verbal ones. She might fix her hair, bite her lip, or subtly mirror your movements. Her body leans closer, her feet point toward you, and her breathing changes ever so slightly when she's near. These are unconscious signs that desire is present. And here's the catch. She's giving permission for you to step closer, but she's watching your reaction more than you realize. Confidence, not force, is what unlocks her next level of engagement. You'll also notice moments of vulnerability disguised as teasing or complaints. Statements like, "You always make things complicated," or "I probably shouldn't like you," are not objections, they are openings. She's inviting you to navigate the tension intelligently. A man who understands this doesn't push too fast. He leans into subtlety. He acknowledges without desperation, plays along without losing control, and lets attraction escalate naturally. And here's a psychological fact that changes everything. Women subconsciously want to feel pursued, but not in a frantic, aggressive way. They want to feel chosen, understood, and mentally stimulated. That's why reading her subtext is critical. If you respond correctly, she moves closer emotionally and physically. If you misread it, she retreats, and often she won't tell you why. When you internalize these signs, you stop guessing. You start seeing the hidden language of attraction. And that's when the dynamic shifts completely in your favor, because she feels drawn to a man who truly understands, not a man who's simply reacting to surface-level flirtation. Now, let's expose the part that men almost always miss, even when the signs are screaming at them. Desire isn't just about physical attraction. It's about emotional alignment. She wants a man who can navigate the tension she creates, someone who can match her energy without losing himself. If you panic, misinterpret, or force the situation, you destroy what could have been a magnetic connection. The most powerful moments happen when you notice without needing confirmation, when you understand without needing explanation. She may say things that seem casual, but every word is loaded with intent. Phrases like, "I'm not supposed to be telling you this," or "You're making me feel things I shouldn't," are her way of letting you in without fully revealing herself. Most men respond incorrectly. They either overreact, make it awkward, or treat it as a joke. The right response: stay composed, show subtle acknowledgement, and keep the energy playful. That's when the emotional tension intensifies and her attraction deepens. Notice her energy around you. Does she mirror your movements? Does she maintain eye contact longer than usual? Does she subtly adjust her appearance, her posture, or her voice? These unconscious signals are her way of testing whether you are attuned to her desires. Women rarely say what they mean explicitly. They communicate through emotion, body language, and tone. If you learn to read these, you're no longer chasing, you're inviting. Here's another truth. Timing is everything. She may fluctuate between interest and resistance, and that's intentional. She's evaluating your patience, emotional stability, and confidence. Men misread this as mixed signals or rejection. In reality, it's an opportunity. The man who can maintain presence, subtle playfulness, and composure through these shifts becomes irresistible. He is no longer just an option. He becomes someone she actively wants. And finally, understand that attraction is a layered process. She's testing your awareness, your confidence, and your emotional intelligence. Every glance, every playful complaint, every teasing comment is a puzzle piece. When you piece it together correctly, emotional chemistry becomes undeniable. You move from being seen as just another guy to someone who occupies her mind, attention, and desire. Master this dynamic and you will never feel lost in female signals again. You'll understand when she's truly drawn to you, even before she hints it outright. And that knowledge, real, unspoken, invisible knowledge, gives you power most men will never have. Here's the final truth, and it's the one that separates men who remain invisible from those who become unforgettable. When a woman wants to sleep with you, she's already imagining the outcome. But she's not going to hand it to you on a silver platter. She's testing if you can feel her desire, respond with confidence, and elevate the tension without being aggressive. Most men fail because they focus on the physical and ignore the emotional undercurrent. That's the critical mistake. She'll give you little breadcrumbs, phrases like, "I can't stop thinking about you," or "You make me feel things I haven't felt in a long time." Pay attention. These are not casual statements. They're invitations cloaked in restraint. Every touch, every laugh, every lingering glance is a piece of the map she's leaving for you. Your job is to read the map, not run ahead blindly. Confidence and subtlety are your compass. Notice how she creates moments of tension. She might tease, challenge, or even act slightly distant. This isn't rejection. It's a test of your ability to handle anticipation. Women are wired to respond to men who can navigate that tension without losing composure. If you can acknowledge her signals calmly with just the right hint of playfulness, you become irresistible. The attraction grows because she feels seen and understood on a deeper level than most men ever manage to reach. Another thing to recognize, desire builds through emotional connection before physical action. When she lowers her guard around you, laughs at your jokes, or shares something personal in a teasing way, she's preparing for intimacy. These moments are fragile. Force or impatience will collapse them. The men who succeed are those who stay present, observe, and respond appropriately, letting chemistry escalate naturally. Finally, the most powerful sign is consistency. When she consistently signals interest through words, touches, and energy alignment, she's mentally and emotionally invested. That's when a man can step in confidently, knowing she's ready for more. She doesn't need you to guess. She's already hoping you know. Mastering this understanding changes everything. So remember, women rarely say what they mean directly. They communicate desire through subtext, emotion, and subtle cues. If you can see it, feel it, and respond intelligently, the attraction becomes inevitable. You stop chasing, guessing, and worrying. Instead, you command attention, create desire, step into a power that most men never experience. This is the invisible language of female desire, the truth few men are ever taught. And now you know.